Have you ever noticed how some arguments keep repeating themselves? Different day, same outcome. You get frustrated, they get defensive, and nothing changes. According to Eric Berne, that's not an accident. Most people are unknowingly following hidden psychological scripts they've carried since childhood. Today, we're breaking down games people play by Eric Berne, and once you understand these invisible games, you'll start spotting them everywhere. In relationships, friendships, work, and even in yourself. Because people aren't just talking. Most of the time, they're playing games. Let's get into it. Concept 1. The 3 people living inside you. Imagine you're driving home after a long day. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Immediately, 3 different voices can appear inside your mind. The first voice says, "What an idiot. People should learn how to drive." The second voice says, "Relax. Nobody got hurt. Just keep driving." The third voice says, "This always happens to me. Why is everyone against me?" Same situation. 3 completely different reactions. According to Eric Berne, these reactions come from 3 different ego states that exist inside every person. The parent, the adult, and the child. These aren't personality types. They're psychological states that can take control of your behavior at any moment. Think of them as 3 different operating systems running inside your mind. Most people believe they're always acting as one consistent person. But Berne argued that's not true. In reality, people constantly switch between these states without realizing it. And understanding them is the key to understanding every relationship you'll ever have. Let's start with the first one, the parent. 1. The parent ego state. When you were a child, you spent years watching adults. You watched how they spoke, how they judged people, how they handled problems, how they expressed love, how they expressed anger. Your brain recorded all of it, like a camera. Years later, those recordings still exist inside you. That's what Berne called the parent ego state. Whenever you hear yourself saying things like, "Because that's the right way to do it," people these days have no respect. "You should know better." You're probably speaking from your parent. And here's the interesting part. Sometimes you're not even expressing your own opinions. You're repeating ideas you absorbed years ago. A guy criticizes his son for playing video games too much. But when he was younger, his father said the exact same thing to him. A woman constantly worries about what other people think. Social rules and valuable life lessons. The problem happens when the parent takes complete control. Because then people stop thinking. They start repeating. And that's where conflict begins. Because another person isn't necessarily responding from their parent. They might be responding from somewhere else entirely. And that brings us to the second character, the adult. 2. The adult ego state. If the parent is your stored recordings from the past, the adult is your present moment processor. It's the part of you that looks at facts, analyzes information, and makes decisions based on reality. Not emotion, not old programming. Reality. Let's say your boss gives you criticism. Your parent might think, "How disrespectful." Your child might think, "I'm a failure." But your adult asks, "Is this feedback useful?" Notice the difference. The adult doesn't overreact. It investigates. It gathers data. It solves problems. This is the version of you that's active when you're comparing prices before buying something, planning a trip, learning a skill, managing a business, or making an important decision. Berne believed the adult plays a crucial role because its job is to mediate between the parent and the child. Without the adult, people become prisoners of emotion and old programming. With it, they gain freedom. But there's one more character we haven't talked about yet. And surprisingly, it's often the most powerful one, the child. 3. The child ego state. Think about the last time you got excited over something small. Maybe your favorite team won. Maybe you got unexpected good news. Maybe someone complimented you and it made your entire day. That feeling didn't come from your adult. It came from your child. According to Eric Berne, every person carries a younger version of themselves inside their mind. Not physically, psychologically. The child stores emotions, fears, desires, creativity, curiosity, excitement, and pain from earlier years. It's the part of you that wants to play, the part that dreams big, the part that falls in love, the part that gets hurt, and sometimes, the part that throws a fit. Imagine a guy gets ignored in a group chat. His adult could think. Everyone's probably busy, but his child thinks. They don't care about me. Now he's upset, not because of reality, but because an old emotional pattern got activated. The child isn't bad. In fact, Berne believed it's one of the most valuable parts of human nature. It's where creativity lives. Passion lives. Joy lives. Without the child, life becomes robotic. The problem happens when the child takes control in situations where the adult should be leading. And this is where relationships become fascinating. Because people aren't just interacting. Their parent, adult, and child states are interacting too. And that's exactly what Berne discovered next. Concept 2, complementary transactions. Imagine a little kid says, "Mom, I'm thirsty." And the mother responds, "Sure, sweetheart. Here's some water." Simple, natural, smooth. According to Berne, this is called a complementary transaction. The message was sent. The expected response came back. Communication flows smoothly. Now, let's look at an adult example. A coworker asks, "Do you know where the report is?" The other coworker replies, "Yeah, it's in the shared folder." Again, smooth. No tensión, no confusión, no drama. The communication channels match perfectly. Berne noticed that whenever transactions remain complementary, conversations can continue almost forever. Two friends talking sports. Two coworkers solving problems. Two parents discussing their kids. Everything feels easy because each person is responding from the expected ego state. But then something happens. And this is where most relationship problems begin. Someone unexpectedly switches states. And suddenly, the conversation crashes. Concept 3, cross-transactions. Imagine you ask your friend, "Hey, are you okay? You seem stressed lately." Seems harmless, right? But instead of answering the question, they snap back. "Why are you always judging me?" Wait, what just happened? You were speaking adult to adult, but they responded child to parent. The communication lines crossed. And according to Berne, this is one of the biggest reasons people argue. Not because of what was said, but because of the ego states involved. A husband asks, "Do you know where my keys are?" A simple adult question. His wife replies, "If you were more organized, you wouldn't lose them." Now we're no longer talking about keys. We're talking about criticism. The conversation instantly changes direction. And we've all experienced this. A small discussion suddenly becomes a huge argument. Not because the topic was important, but because the transaction became crossed. This is why some conversations feel effortless while others feel like hitting a brick wall. The words may seem normal, but underneath those words, different ego states are battling for control. And if cross-transactions create confusion, hidden transactions create manipulation. Concept 4, ulterior transactions, the hidden game. This is where the book starts getting really interesting, because Berne realized that people often say one thing, while secretly meaning something else. A salesperson says, "You probably can't afford this one." Sounds like information, but psychologically, it's a challenge. Suddenly the customer thinks, "Oh yeah? Watch me," and buys it. On the surface, it's an adult conversation. Underneath, it's a child reaction. This is called an ulterior transaction. Two conversations happening at the same time. One visible, one hidden. And once you start noticing these hidden layers, you realize they're everywhere. A friend says, "I guess nobody wants to hang out anymore." Sounds innocent, but hidden underneath is, "Please prove me wrong." Someone posts online, "Guess I'm not good enough." Looks like self-reflection, but often it's fishing for reassurance. The hidden message matters more than the spoken message. Because according to Berne, this hidden psychological layer is where games are born. People aren't always communicating directly. Sometimes they're setting traps. Sometimes they're seeking validation. Sometimes they're trying to avoid responsibility. And most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. But before games begin, there's something else people use to fill their lives. Something most people never notice. Concept 5, rituals, pastimes, and why games begin. Here's a weird question. Why do people talk about the weather so much? Seriously, think about it. Two strangers meet. "Nice day today." "Yeah, looks like rain later." Neither person learns anything important. Yet the conversation happens every day. Why? According to Berne, these are rituals. Predictable social patterns. Small exchanges that help people feel comfortable around each other. They're safe. They're familiar. They're low risk. But rituals aren't enough to fill all of our time. So people move into what Berne called pastimes. Small talk, office gossip, sports debates, celebrity news, random conversations at parties. Most people think these discussions are about information. Berne disagreed. He believed they're primarily about connection. People aren't just exchanging facts. They're testing each other, sizing each other up, trying to figure out, is this someone I can trust? Is this someone I like? Is this someone I want in my life? And this is where things get interesting. Because eventually, rituals and pastimes aren't enough. People want something deeper, something more emotionally stimulating. And that's when the games begin. Not board games, not sports games, psychological games. Patterns so subtle that most people never recognize them. Yet these games shape friendships, relationships, marriages, workplaces, and sometimes entire lives. But here's the thing. We've only scratched the surface of what Eric Berne uncovered. In part 2, we're diving into the actual psychological games people play every single day. Games that quietly shape relationships, arguments, and even life decisions without people realizing it. So if you want part 2, let's make it happen. Let's hit 100 likes on this video and drop part 2 in the comments. If enough of you want it, I'll break down the most powerful games from the book and show you how to spot them in real life. And trust me, once you see these games, you can't unsee them. See you in the next one.